Good afternoon, everybody. Campbell McCrary, Amvest Capital in New York. Welcome to the Amvest Capital Live webinar with Equity Metals. Equity Metals trades on the venture as EQTY and as EQMEF on the OTCQB. We hope you'll enjoy today's webinar. It will also be available in replay mode. The replay also can be accessed in about an hour at amvestcapital.com/webinars. Very important. Feel free to chat in your questions in the question pane of GoToWebinar, or simply email them in and we'll ask them in real time. Amvest Capital, that's us, New York-based specialist investment management and corporate finance firm focused solely on the natural resource sector. Our all-important disclaimer, this call is for informational purposes only. Presenting today, we have not one, but two persons from Equity Metals. Joe Keyes, the director and president, and Rob McDonald, vice president of exploration, both experienced geologist executives. And so with that, gentlemen, if you want to turn on your webcams, and Joe, you'll kick us off. Rob, why don't you get that going? And I'll give you the floor, and I'll see you in about 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Well, appreciate it. And let's see, is my screen being shared?
It is, but we don't see the presentation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's odd. Okay, let's do this. How about now?
Yep, full screen mode, and off we go.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you, Campbell, and thank you all other participants for listening. So Equity Metals is an exploration company. We make our shareholders money by making discoveries. And I'll give you a little bit of background on the company. It was about less than 2 years ago that a mining engineer who's pretty well known in the junior business came to us and said that he had an interesting project that he's working on, and it was with a company called New Nadina. So they had made a discovery and put together a small, pretty nice grade resource, but he thought there was perhaps a bigger story to be told there. We had worked with this engineer in the past, and so we took a look at the project and we're pretty impressed. And a couple of things that caught our attention: it's very good grade. That's kind of the first box to be checked. It's a big system. There's a lot of veins on this particular project. A lot of them are relatively narrow, but there are some intercepts that are quite nice and would be good underground grades and thicknesses. And they had made a discovery of a porphyry system that was buried and not exposed at surface. And a lot of these better vein systems are really driven by some sort of a large heat source, and that porphyry is certainly a possibility. So we liked the project, took a pretty hard look at it, and basically took over the company in the fall of 2019, changed the name to Equity Metals, raised a little bit of money. And we started off in early 2020 doing some confirmation drilling, some small offsets. And near the end of the program, we had a little bit of money left over. So Rob and I and one of our computer geologists, Colin Hamilton, got together over a Zoom meeting, and we looked at some possibilities. Because in these vein systems, what makes these turn into mines instead of just exploration projects is you've got to have mineable width. The grade is great, but you need some mineable width. And there are a number of reasons why a vein system will blow out into these much more interesting thick zones. And one of those is an elevational control. So we took a look at some of the historic drilling on sort of our secondary target, what we call the camp vein. And that was our hole number 10. And that small inset that I have on the bottom here is, I'm not sure if you can see my pointer, but this area here, the reddish colored rock is all very, very high grade ruby silver. And so that was something like 56,000 parts per million silver. So incredible values. And so that started the ball rolling for a pretty active program for us. So we're going to go into a little bit of that detail here. We'll be making some forward-looking statements because Rob and I are both geologists and we can't help ourselves. So we're going to talk about things that we think could happen. So a little bit of background on the company itself. We're part of the Mannix group of companies. They handle all the backroom type information that we need and support that we need to for investor relations, accounting, and that sort of thing. And it leaves the geologists like Rob and I to, really focus on adding the value to the shares by doing exploration. So far, we've done 31 holes, almost 10,000 meters on the Silver Queen project. And really what we've focused on is just the top 4 targets, and really the first 3 target areas or drilling programs were just on 2 of the target areas. So this latest one, we have 2 other areas that we're pretty keen on. So, as we learn about the system, there are a lot of veins, and as we get a better understanding of what some of the controls are of mineralization, and particularly where those controls can lead to a thicker zone of high-grade mineralization, we have a lot of targets to look at and then to evaluate. So we're starting now with the intention of a 4th round of exploration sometime later this year to look at some of these other targets, because a lot of them have very, very shallow drilling or no drilling at all. And so there's some real upside potential there. What we've completed right now is out of those, this last round of exploration, 13 holes, we announced the first 5 holes this morning, and we'll talk about that in a bit more detail. So that means we have 8 additional holes that we're waiting for, including 2 of the new target areas that we're going to be that we've drilled just now. So the resource is something that caught our attention early on. It's only about 500,000 ounces, but that is only on primarily the number 3 vein. So there's some pretty exciting things that we think we're going to be able to add to the resource base fairly quickly. This morning we put out a news release. This is the headline. Very nice first round of work on the number 3 vein in an area that's a transition into another vein called the NG3. So 4.7 meters, it averages 8.7 grams gold, and some significant other mineralization. And on a gold equivalent basis, it's about 18.6 grams per ton. So the number 3 vein has very high silver. One of the other deposits or the other veins that we've done work on is the Camp vein. That one's more silver biased. There's a photo I showed you in the beginning. You can see the small inset of very high grade, but it's within a much thicker zone, 4.5 meters, and that averages 4.7 kilos of silver equivalent. And that includes some plus kilo silver in the wall rock, in addition to the very high grade that's carrying a lot of the highest value. So that's all very exciting, and I'll just show you a little bit about some generalities on the property. It's located about midway British Columbia, just on the east side of the Coast Range. So the topography is a bit drier than other parts. The topography is a lot more subdued, so much easier working than some of the work that Rob and I have done previously up in the Golden Triangle, which is a lot more rugged, and the snow level can be pretty intimidating. Now, in addition to the Silver Queen project, there's some other assets in the company. Probably the next most important are these 2 diamond projects that are in the upper part of the Northwest Territories. So these are about 40 kilometers from the active Diabet and EQTY diamond mines. Both of those are nearing the ends of their lives. So right now, diamond prices aren't particularly attractive, and so we're doing a bit of work, but mostly just kind of putting that on the back burner until we think there's an opportunity to add some value to the company as diamonds continue to become more rare in this part of the world. And we're hoping that it'll catch some additional attention. A little bit closer look at the Silver Queen. It's another area that's a very well-known district. There are a lot of mines and a lot of major companies that are working in the area. It's called the Skeena Arch, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in some detail. And so really Silver Queen is the flagship for the company. And again, just a couple of really important points. There's some historic mining, some historic development that's been done. There's a drift system that's about 9,000 meters. That's going to be very helpful when it comes to outlining in more details the higher levels of resource development. We get to inferred, we move from inferred into indicated and then into measured. You pretty much need underground access to do enough drilling, otherwise it gets prohibitively expensive. So this historic mining, some very good grades and the historic work, and a lot of different veins that, we've only scratched the surface of a few of these right now. So the underground workings, here's the vein, the number 3, the green areas are underground workings. So pretty good information. Now, right now they're flooded, but being flooded means they don't deteriorate quite as quickly. So if you do dewater them, then you have a better chance of being able to use those, excuse me, to use those historic workings. The property is located in, like I said, in a pretty active area. You can see Imperial Minerals, a Huckleberry mine, Centerra located here. Teck has property there. Newmont, the previously mined EQTY silver deposit. The Buck properties had some pretty interesting news releases out fairly recently. So that's always good because it's always a nice thing to have potential partners or acquisition groups that might be interested in acquiring the company or the property. Like I said, the logistics are great, especially since some of our previous work in the Golden Triangle required camps and helicopters and all that. We have a camp on site. You can drive to it. As you can see, the topography is not very bad at all, very mild. So at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Rob, who's going to talk about some of the details of the Silver Queen project. So I'm going to turn off my camera and leave that to Rob.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Joe, and thank you all for joining us in our presentation. And so everyone can see this now, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll pick up from where Joe left off. Just a little bit more on the mineral resource estimate. I mean, it comes out to just under 500,000 ounces gold equivalent, and primarily gold and silver mineralization, and with a bit of a base metal credit, primarily in zinc. The main thing to note here, it's about 50-50 indicated and inferred resources. And we're also looking at some pretty good grades of mineralization in the gold and silver mineralization. So it tends to be quite high grade mineralization. And you can see the gold equivalency and silver equivalency grades. Again, very good underground mineable grades. So that leaves us very, very encouraged. So in terms of what we've completed to date, we've had 3 different phases of exploration on the project since we started in late August 2020. We've completed 31 holes, just under 10,000 meters of drilling, with 16 holes drilled in the camp vein in this area down in here. And then we've also completed another 15 holes in the number 3 vein, the NG3 vein just over on here, and the intervening area in between those 2 vein systems. But I will draw your attention to other areas throughout the property that lead us to believe that there is additional exploration potential here. We've had some great success at the camp vein with, as Joe indicated, the bonanza grade silver mineralization over over 50 kilos silver over 30 centimeters, and we just reported some high-grade gold mineralization in this area of the number 3 vein. But we also have a series of other veins, the George Lake vein on here. The NG3 vein actually projects a little bit further, actually quite a bit further, around 500 meters further to the southeast, as well as we have this area, the number 5 and the switchback veins, which appear to intersect with the camp vein right in the area where we're seeing our high-grade mineralization. So not only are we having initial success in the camp vein, some limited testing, but good results in the number 5 vein, as well as in the number 3, and now just starting at the NG3. There is additional exploration potential up here in the northern part of the number 3 vein, the George Lake, a little bit further afield in the Coal Lake. So this is a big epithermal vein system. We're seeing excellent grades. We're seeing good thicknesses being identified in each of these phases of drilling, and leaves us very encouraged as we continue exploring on the project through 2021 and beyond. So at the camp vein, just to zoom you in a little bit further, we've now completed over nearly 3,400 meters of drilling, and this would be at the camp vein in the number 5. Earlier drilling in the camp vein was all relatively shallow, or most of it was relatively shallow, and we had a few deeper holes in our phase 2 drilling. This phase 3 drilling, our last 3 holes tested down dip on the camp vein, and we've now been able to identify veins in some pretty good thicknesses of vein. We don't know what the grades are yet, but good thicknesses of vein that are upwards of 170 meters below surface. So we've had some great success in being able to extend this vein system down dip and be able to expand into, from this is the old historic resource that we're looking to upgrade into a 43-101 resource, as well as then the potential expansion down here. And so we're seeing some good things in our recent drilling that leave us very encouraged with what we've seen so far. This is the area, or this is the hole right here, hole number 10, where we drilled our 56,000 gram per ton silver equivalent intercept in the ruby silver, and Joe showed you a picture of that a little bit earlier in the presentation. In the number 3 vein, again, this is the modeled vein. So this is the main resource, primarily the number 3, with a little snippet in the NG3. So we did some drilling in our phase 1 drilling in August, September, drilling 2 chutes in the number 3 vein, and now in our phase 3 drilling, the new drilling has all been focused on this edge of the number 3 vein, and as well as some down dip in the NG3 vein. The first 5 holes are these ones sitting in here, and this is where we've had our high grade mineralization with the 8-meter intercept, sorry, the 4.7 meter intercept of 18.6 grams per ton silver equivalent here in hole 22, and then a little bit deeper, about a 50-meter step out down dip with good high grade intercept, gold intercept, 1.6 meters of 15 grams per ton gold equivalent in hole 23. We still have assays pending for holes 24, 25, holes assays pending for hole 26, and for 27 and 28 as well. So there is more good news to come in the coming weeks as we receive the balance of the assays from this current program. And so the main advantages we have to sort of bring it all together, the main advantages that we have with the Silver Queen project is superior access and logistics. You can drive right to the project. It's very, very low topography, easy access all around the project area. This leads to low exploration costs. And where we are, we're in the rain shadow of the Coast Range on the west coast of British Columbia. So we're in a much easier climate, lower topography to be working in, and this translates into low exploration costs and an expanded exploration season. We have a high-grade mineral resource already existing in the number 3 vein, and we're looking to continue to expand that in the camp vein, and then extensions to the number 3 and the NG3 vein systems, as well as other targets that we're currently compiling and working on, and that we'll be able to talk about in a little bit more detail in the coming weeks. There's also significant existing historical development that Joe referred to. And again, this gives us, potential underground access for infill drilling when the time is right, or bulk sampling or other work that's required to bring a project through feasibility. And we'll be able to do that then at reduced costs, which makes it a very, very effective area downstream for the downstream mining scenarios. Again, we're surrounded by majors and mid-tiers, which provide us potential JV or acquisition opportunities as the area itself starts to heat up more. There was lots of drilling on the project in 2020. We started out in 2021, and there will be much more in as we go through the balance of this year as well. And so the people that are associated with the project, we have an experienced group, a board of directors that have been involved with exploration and mining for decades. Tremendous amount of experience, both worldwide, throughout Canada and specifically in British Columbia. Joe and I worked for 10, 12 years in the Golden Triangle, developing resources at the Homestake Ridge project, which itself developed into a high-grade gold-silver deposit. And we're bringing a lot of that experience to bear in both the exploration of the Silver Queen project, as well as navigating the company and the project, through the stages as a junior explorationist. So in summary here now, again, why invest now? It's the experienced management and backroom support from the Mannix Resource Group. We have the geological team in place to maximize our exploration efforts. We've had a successful 2020 drill program, and now into 2021. We've had bonanza grade intercepts, both with gold and especially with silver. We have assays pending, so there's good news to come in the coming months. We have a mineral resource estimate that we're able to build on, and we're looking at aggressive expansion in the 2021 timeframe. And so then just a little bit more on the capital structure, so you can just to leave you with this, again, where we're looking at with our issued and outstanding and fully diluted shares. Again, a summary of the directors and management and our both institutional and management holdings. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Excellent. Let's dive into some questions if you're both ready.
Sure.
Let's start with relations with surface land owner, and any access and any issues. So title above and below the ground.
I mean, we do have title to the project, and we have both we have sets of patented claims, some Crown granted claims, as well as surface rights over the mine site area, and then mineral tenures throughout the balance of the property package. There is a nearby rancher that we are currently working with to get access to certain parts of the property that's more in the southern part of the vein system, and we are working towards a full-time agreement with him, but we did have agreement with him on this round to complete the drilling that we just completed. There are a number of other high-grade targets on the project area that we are now advancing and will be drilling through the summer, which are not on the neighboring ranchers' land. So at this time, we have lots of places to explore. We have a good relationship moving forward with the local people, the local rancher, and we are looking to continue advancing the property through 2021.
Okay, I see on this slide here ski slopes. What mountain is that?
Oh, that's Nadina Mountain. I don't think that's actually just rivers and channels. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
think there's actually skiing on there. But that is Nadina Mountain. That's located, I think, only around 5 or 10 kilometers to the west northwest. And so we're actually at that's a photo taken from the edge of the tailings pond across there, and I guess that was the origin of the new Nadina company name, and it is the Nadina area.
Is the $100 NSR the cutoff grade in terms of cost per ton? And what is the average width of the number 3 vein?
That is the estimate of the cost per ton is the $100, and this was estimated by the engineering firm that did the mineral resource estimate. The average width of the vein is on the order of 2 to 3 meters for the number 3 vein. And so there's some intervals that are quite a bit thicker. There's other intervals that are quite narrow, that are narrower than that. But it is on the order of 2 to 3 meters, which is a reasonable mining thickness for underground mining activities.
How many different deposits and vein systems does the existing resource model contain?
It's primarily the number 3, and the number 3 has the main vein, which extends for about 1,200 meters, and then there's 2 or 3 hanging wall and footwall panels that are significantly smaller. Might be like a couple of 100 meters, 1 to 200 meters by 1 to 200 meters, so sort of smaller panels. And then there's the little snippet here. I'll actually show you. Yeah, so this is around the 1,200 meters. That is the extension of the number 3 vein. There is another smaller panel, which is the NG3, and there's some hanging wall and footwall panels that occur just on either side of the number 3 vein. The camp vein has an historic reserve, which was modeled in the 80s or early 90s. And this was the upper part of the historic drilling, so the 87 and 88 generation drilling on the camp vein system. This identified over 200,000 tons at over 800 grams per ton silver, with a smidgen of gold and zinc. And so we're working on modeling that and making sure that we know the geometry of the camp vein, and are going to be looking to fast track this mineralization into a 43-101 mineral resource. In the meantime, we're also drilling down dip to extend that mineralization to depth and to see how this mineralization projects to depth. One thing that really intrigues us, and I'm stealing a little bit of Joe's thunder here because he likes to talk about the zoning of the of the epithermal veins. But where we have such high-grade silver mineralization in quite a number of these holes, and yes, the highlight was 56 grams per ton, silver in hole 10, but there's also 5,000, 2,000, 4,000, 8,000 gram silver. Just silver, not silver equivalent, silver mineralization in a number of these historic holes. That what we are looking for as well is that as we move to depth, these systems tend to be zoned vertically, and that we may start transitioning into high-grade gold mineralization as we project to depth. So that's one of the reasons why we continue to drill to depth, to track the vein, and to make sure that we can continue extending the vein deeper than what has historically been drilled.
In an underground mining scenario, would the same main underground provide access for all veins?
It'll certainly provide access for the number 3 and the initial access for the NG3. So you can see here, This is the extent of the underground workings right along the number 3 vein. That extends out to about here. And but any extensions of the NG3, one would have to extend the workings that way. The workings would have to be extended to depth as we project the number 3 vein to depth. And then as you come out to, for example, the George Lake area, you would have to extend off of that drift to chase any potential mineralization in the George Lake area. There's quite a number of other veins in the Coal Lake and the George Lake South, as well as the Switchback area, and those don't have any workings immediately associated with them. Although, for example, in the number 5 and Switchback, the number 5 vein, part of those veins were intersected in some of the historic workings right out here near the mouth of the Earl Adit.
Currently, above what grade do you consider something to be high grade material?
I think once you start getting up around, and Joe, I mean, you may have some thoughts on that as well, but I mean, I think once you start getting over 5-8 grams gold, you start talking about high grade, or maybe even upwards of 10 grams gold. With silver, you're probably looking at somewhere like 400 or 500 grams silver. You start talking about bonanza grades when you get ounce plus for gold, and 1,000 grams silver or higher is what we consider bonanza grades. Do you have any thoughts on that, Joe?
Yeah, I think a lot of people would look at like 300 grams silver as sort of a lower limit of what could be economic. But you really want to know where all the higher grade material is. If it's over a kilo of silver, I don't know what that equilibrates to in gold right now, but it's somewhere in the 0.3 to 0.4 ounce per ton gold value. So it's pretty substantial. Yeah. So, and as far as the underground workings, we're hoping that there's going to need to be a lot more underground workings, because there's lots of exploration potential. And the key to making this into something that's going to be very valuable is finding out where those blowouts are. Whatever the controls are, in some combination of structural intersections, elevations above, where the mineralization is dropping out. There does seem to be quite a bit of lateral movement. Rob mentioned about the, the gold transitioning from high silver values, and that's something we saw at Homestake, and it was pretty simple there. We just went down underneath the high silver, and there was high grade gold. It looks like there's more lateral movement here, and that may just be some oblique movement. We still haven't worked out all the details there, but when you look at the whole system, it looks like it's tilted down to the west, which means the camp vein is probably at a much higher level of erosion, less erosion than in the number 3 vein. And you notice that the camp vein is very high in silver. The number 3 vein is very much higher in gold, and silver isn't quite as high. So, that sort of transition is just basic chemistry of hot, salty fluids and what happens as they move along their pathways. And that's what we're trying to sort out. We're not quite fully there yet, but we've got some ideas. And I think that's why we're so excited about some of the other targets, because we see areas that we think, well, we should go deeper, we should go, shallower, or farther along, the fluid pathway. So yeah, it's a work in progress, and so far we've made some good progress.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Joe, just following up on what you were saying there, my question just was around sort of the story, why you've got sort of high grade, sort of near surface hits or sort of shallow hits, but limited past production. And do you think that's sort of that lack of understanding lateral movement, the structural controls of what's the story there? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think early on the idea was to get into production quickly, and there was some high grade veins, so they, that's basically what they went after, and that's why you see in that slide there, you know, they went into an area that they could drill cheaply, and then, you know, underground development along that underground, but they didn't really do a lot of deep work. Some of the first really deeper work was done by New Nadina, where they were looking at some porphyry mineralization. You know, there was a pretty standard BC looking porphyry copper at depth. You know, the average grade of the porphyry part is not great, and it may or may not be the main driver for the veins that we see, but I suspect it's related to that. So the veins themselves were really something that small scale operators went after with the idea of you know, kind of bootstrapping their way up in production. You know, we take a little different view. Yes, we're going to be spending more money up front to do exploration, but, you know, we're not really looking for a small mine. And so, you know, what are the features that we want to see to suggest that this could be a substantial district? And that's, you know, when I see veins with these kind of grades, you know, yeah, you'd like to see big fat veins, but, you know, if they're big fat veins, somebody would have already mined it. What we do see, though, is there's typical pinch and swell, and that's really common in epithermal systems, whether they're related to porphyries or, you know, even the epithermal systems that, you know, that we see in other parts of the world. So, you know, they're usually keys. Sometimes it's elevation, sometimes it's certain host rocks that, you know, break up and form the bigger zones. Nobody really looked at that, and that was part of why I was pretty excited about taking this project on. First of all, you can get to it. It doesn't, you don't go broke trying to, you know, send in helicopters and, you know, burning up your budgets very quickly. You can drive in and do a lot of drilling. We've done quite well in drill costs. I don't know, Rob, you may want to comment on that, but I mean, this is why we were able to get hole 10. We hadn't planned on drilling that hole with the high grade silver hit. You know, we were specifically trying to, you know, verify some of the mineralized blocks, do a little bit of step out, and you know, since we had a little drill money left over, we said, well, you know, we can put this anywhere. Let's test a geologic concept. And, you know, it does look like, you know, there's at least some elevational control here. Also, there's some structural control. So intersecting veins that we think are important. We haven't quite fully worked that out yet, but some of those east-west veins look like they're pretty important controls on the north-northwest veins.
Sure. Yeah, my next question was actually going to be what you passed on to Rob around the drilling costs. Can you comment on sort of your per meter drilling costs there?
Yes, we just finished a winter program, and those costs were around maybe $250 to $275 a meter. During the fall time when we were drilling, the costs dropped to around $200 to $225 a meter. So it has been, you know, quite effective in terms of exploration, and that's Canadian dollars. So if, you know, for all of your U.S. listeners, then you know, you can, I think for what's 75 or 0.75 multiplied by 0.75 to get to U.S. dollars. So yeah, it is very, very cost-effective exploration, and it's allowed us to do, as Joe has said, drill an extra couple of holes. You know, we had a plan to drill 4,000 meters. We drilled nearly 5,000 meters on this winter program, and you know, so yeah, it's an excellent place to work. We have some fantastic access. The camp is quite well set up for the scale of the operation that we're employing right now. The drillers love it. You have drillers that are you know, we're drilling over 100 meters a day, so they absolutely love getting on this project. So it's good drilling, low costs, and good mineral. We've been able to, as I say, and as Joe has mentioned, you know, to get high grade gold and silver intercepts in every single program of the 3 programs that we've conducted so far.
Great. Yeah, it's always good to get more than you budgeted, for sure. And in terms of sort of your follow-up program, what would be sort of your max depth or max level of interest on the depth side?
I guess we will be going back to step off from, I guess, hole 23. What we want to do is find out what all of these holes look like and what this hole looks like. And so we probably, depending on what vector that gives us, we'll probably want to get another, hole or two in here. We'll want to do more drilling down in this area on the NG3. So that's going to be, maybe around 300 to 400 meters depth in this vein system. However, our focus, one of our focuses right now is to look at the potential of some of these east-west veins. In the phase 2 program, we drilled our hole 17 and intersected in the upper part of hole 17 a portion of the number 5 vein system, which comprises of maybe 4 different veins. Some of them are exposed on surface and were drilled in historic drilling. Others were identified in the Earl adit, which comes through right in through here. And the sense that we have is that we're getting, sometimes thick veins projecting into, and they are on west northwest, east southeast orientation, and they seem to intersect with the northwest southeast orientations, and that seems to be where you get some significant blowouts. So we're now compiling drill data from these series of holes along the switchback and the number 5 vein. We're compiling data in this area of the South George Lake and looking at the Coal Creek area up through and around here, and are going to be looking at trying to, or testing more shallow targets with the next phase or 2 of drilling. And the idea is that with these vein systems, you need to get as many hits as you can, as quickly and as efficiently as you can. So the idea here will be to aggressive testing of some of these shallow targets, maybe down to 200 meters, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, and again, investigate and test the high-grade potential of about 4 or 5 different targets throughout the property over the next phase or 2 of drilling that we conduct.
I'll just point out on the switchback vein, if you just project that same intersection into the number 3, there are no drill holes there.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of an exciting target. And also to the northwest along the number 3, there are a series of veins that spiral off of it. And, that's pretty similar to the situation we see at the number 5, where there's a series of these veins coming off of the main northwest trending structure. So there are a number of pretty interesting shallow targets. And, one of the problems with vein systems in general is how do you get enough working faces to keep a reasonable sized mill working. So you need those multiple faces, and if we can get a number of higher grade deposits that are fairly shallow, the chances of getting much cheaper cost of milling is reasonable. I mean, that's sort of the goal. That's what a larger company is going to certainly be looking at, is how many faces can we work this, that are going to be able to feed a mill.
Yeah, it's a great segue to my last question before I pass to Artie. Actually, it was just around the historic production. How are they processing it? And then are you seeing across sort of your drilling across these different vein systems, the same mineralogy, same rocks?
I guess in terms of the processing, this would have been back in the 70s. I guess they originally did some mining back in the 30s. And then there was a bit of a lull, and then back in the 70s there was a joint venture signed between the Braylorn Mining Company and the Nadina Company. It was called the Bradina JV, and they moved the. I guess Braylorn was just closing down, so they moved the mill up to New Nadina. Unfortunately, the mill wasn't really optimized for the style of veins that we have up here at Silver Queen. And didn't work very well. But in the 80s, there was a significant amount of work done on the, and particularly metallurgical work done on the number 3 vein, and they were able to identify 3 different concentrates, I believe, which is how the NSR values of the that were the NSR values for the number 3 vein that were used in establishing that $100 cutoff. And so I think we are seeing very similar vein systems. There does seem to be a bit of a separation in terms of the style of vein. There seem to be some, what I refer to as heavy sulfide veins. These will be a lot of pyrite, but with other base metals in there. Sometimes very sharp upticks in copper mineralization, and these tend to have some good high-grade silver and gold values associated with them. And then there seem to be some more sulfide poor is probably the wrong word, but not as sulfide rich veins, and these tend to be like the ruby silver vein. In here, other veins that have maybe are more biased towards sphalerite and whatnot. So there tends to be at least 2 veins, and it suggests, I think, a multi-phase epithermal system with maybe one phase, the heavy sulfide veins maybe being more spatially associated with the source porphyry or source intrusion, and then the barite, sphalerite with the ruby silver parargyrite is another name for that, maybe being more distal and more of the result of boiling and the true epithermal styled veins. So we do see those different veins. We're tracking as best we can those different veins and trying to resolve what orientation of vein carries whatever style of mineralization. But to answer your question, they all seem to be similar to the veins that had been identified before on the property. And so at this point, there's no real surprises for us, other than the happy surprises of getting high-grade mineralization associated with them.
Great, thank you for that. Artie?
Thank you. As a difference from the past explorer, you mentioned changing the focus to large scale rather than small mine focus. I'm wondering what exploration techniques provide you a base for large scale exploration, or in other words, how you define the veins in the first time?
The previous workers, there have been a lot of workers on this property. Exploration goes back over 100 years on this property, so there is a fairly significant and substantive database of, at the very least, like sample locations and gold and silver and base metal values. That occur throughout the property. So I think we do have a leg up just from a bunch of the historical drilling. I think when you look at that in there, these are all the drill holes. There's over 500 drill holes on the property, and so at this point, much of our work is compiling the historic drilling, whatever surface sampling and maps that we can identify, and we're using those to vector into the focus of our drilling. For example, we knew that there was 200,000 ton historic reserve in the camp vein, so we went in and we drilled that. We know that there's both surface sampling of high-grade polymetallic mineralization with a strong gold and copper bias that was sampled on surface in the number 5 vein. We know that the number 5 veins were also intersected in the Earl adit. We know that there was good thicknesses of mineralization there. We know that there's some excellent thicknesses of mineralization up in the Coal Creek area, and this whole cluster of holes at George Lake identifies a 200-meter panel of mineralization, of high-grade mineralization that is yet to be drilled. We know that there's thick zones of high-grade mineralization right along here in the South George Lake area. So a lot of it has really been putting together a lot of the historical data to direct our immediate drilling. In the meantime, we have used a helicopter to fly a 500 line kilometer closely spaced magnetic survey over the property, and we've then looked at that and did the various iterations and the various derivatives that you have with magnetics to help track these veins and to help look at the geophysical signatures of these veins. There's a tremendous amount of data, and I have to compliment the previous workers they were never shy about doing the cutting edge stuff. And so there's geotech airborne surveys, there's Triton, Quantech Triton surveys that have been done on the property. So there is actually a tremendous database for us to go through and systematically look at the geophysical, geochemical patterns to be able to help vector us into these other targets.
So just one additional thing on that is,
go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, just, the 3D modeling that's possible right now allows us to take this three-dimensional information from the drilling and the geochemistry from the drilling and the surface work that has been done, plus what we're adding to, and put that together. We're still in that process, but it's such a powerful tool in vein systems. You can see where the flexures are. You can see how certain rocks may affect the veining. It's tight in one area and it blows out in a more brittle unit. I mean, those are the type of things that that we're kind of working our way towards right now. We're not quite there yet, but Rob, I think you're planning on doing a fair amount of surface work this year as well on some of these other targets, and that's partially why we're kind of excited about a drilling program later this year as we can test some of those shallow target ideas.
Thank you. Is the current power supply in the region will be enough if you start the operation tomorrow? What power infrastructure upgrades you will need?
Now there is a power line that runs right down the road and goes to the Huckleberry mine, which is now on care and maintenance. So for the development of a project the size of the Huckleberry open pit, clearly there is a power line that could feed a system that size. As other projects come up, or if Huckleberry comes off care and maintenance and starts mining again, maybe there is additional infrastructure that has to be put in place. At this time, I don't have an exact answer for you. Once we get to the PEA stage, for example, we'll have a much better idea of how big this system is. Hopefully we'll have to build a whole new power corridor down there because we're just going to need that much more to mine it all. I hope. At this point, I can't say for sure.
Thank you, Campbell.
Sure. I've got two quick questions, and then we have to close because we're running out of time. But that's a good problem to have. So just going back to the warrants outstanding, someone commented a little significant. If you could just talk about the timing of their expiration and any comment on how we have so many outstanding?
Well, we had to raise money for the drilling program so far. And of course, when we took over, we had taken over a company that didn't have any cash in it. So, that initial funding was fairly rich. At 8 cents, it was tough, right? But we needed the money to start the drilling program, and I think that was money well spent. So those are the 12-cent warrants, and then some of that 4.25, I think those are left over from a previous new Nadina offering. I'm not sure they're still in that one. We may want to check that to see if that needs to be updated. The 12-cent are from more recent financings. But we're in pretty good shape right now. We've got about $1.5 million hard money and about $1 million in flow-through funds. So we're doing pretty good. We don't have to do a financing unless the market is is favorable for us.
One of the slides shows adjacent poplar property owned by a doctor's group. What's the situation and relationship with that property and group?
That's on the other side of the axis.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. So the road, that road to the Huckleberry mine runs right down, basically right along the claim boundary. Sorry, no, it runs right in through here. Sorry. I don't know a tremendous amount about the Poplar deposit. I know it was a porphyry copper target. I don't know if there's been much work on it for the over the last little while. So I'm not entirely sure on that. I know that there was exploration on the Buck property. This is actually Sun Summit Resources now. It's no longer San Marco, it's Sun Summit. I know that there was some exploration on the Fenton property, and I think last year, and possibly it was even the year before, there was exploration. Teck was exploring on their CR property as well. But for Poplar itself, I haven't heard anything recently about activity on the property.
All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in and for the questions that were sent in. And on your exit, you'll be prompted for a few lines of feedback. Please share it, or in the email later on. Get a copy of this in later emails, or at amvestcapital.com/webinars and also /replays. So maybe a very brief closing remark, and we'll pick it up another time. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'd just like to thank everybody for their attention, and we're excited about it, and
Yeah,
I hope we conveyed that. I think it's going to be an exciting year for us.
it was definitely great. Good day, everyone.
Perfect.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.